stressed to make sure we only, each person talked for only a couple of minutes too. Very hard to say what you want to say in just 2 minutes worth of talking. As you can see with me. All right, let's have a look at developing apps with Azure OpenAI. So after all, we want to make something really useful with these. It's not about the playground, really. It's about trying that out, seeing what it does, and then giving it a whirl with your applications. So we'll talk about the REST APIs and the SDKs now. So just like we've done with all the other AI features and services, we're doing the same thing there. So as you can see there, you can call different APIs, so you can create completion. So we won't worry too much about completion because it's some of the older, particularly some of the older services. But you saw there at DaVinci and I've forgotten the other one. They allow for embedding. So usually it's in the name. You can go and check those out as well. Now, embeddings take input as a vector representation. So what that does is, like I was saying before, it works it out in 3D space. Where does, if you imagine a gigantic vector with every single word in every language basically sitting in it, and how close those, because you start to get an idea of the volume of these sorts of things, how close they are in relation in that 3D space. Each one of those would represent a vector input, and as a result, you can imagine these large language models take quite a bit of resources to actually produce, and we can see that is evidence actually with OpenAI using our biggest computer that we've ever had. NVIDIA have one as well, and all that combined compute, GPUs especially, has gone to produce these rather large, amazing sort of large language models. And you need that sort of thing if you're writing it from scratch. So hopefully you don't have to write them from scratch. And of course, then we want to think about how we're going to use that. So embedding, yes, is an interesting one. You see completion takes the input prompts, the user, the assistant. So you saw when I did future shop prompting, each one of those would be one, and I explained that one at the beginning of the day as well. Embeddings will take values, and it would turn the words into vectors, and then will more easily converse with the model behind the scenes, if you want to think of it like that. And then, of course, the chat completions is about where you ask for something and then it completes that either with something like an email or a SQL statement or something like that. So that's where we're using less and less of that. You can use all of the chat as completions as well anyway. So it will be endpoint focused that we focus on for this course for chat completion there. So, and this is basically, we're seeing a lot of this chat, but there are some examples in embedding if you want to have a look at those as well. So, again, depending on which version you take, it will depend what it can do as well. So if you choose something that is an embedding model, you're not going to be able to use the embedding option there. So in this example here, you can see the endpoint, which is deployments, completions, for example. Your favourite Shakespeare play is, and then that's going to answer the question. And basically there you can see it's chosen Macbeth. So there's the input on the left and the output on the right for the completions. The same sort of thing when you have a look at embeddings. Now, this is what it typically looks like. I might even have a Postman example of that one. I think I did before. I haven't tested it for a while, so please forgive me if it doesn't work. But I can at least show the input and the output that it's done previously. It's just waiting for Postman to come up. And wow. Okay, so there's the embedding version. Let's have a look at that one. So you can see it's calling embedding there at the top, the API. And if I send that, looks like it's got an error there, but you can get an idea of what you need to be able to send. So it will basically send that the food was delicious and the waiter ... It will return a series of vectors, and this will be a gigantic list of vectors that will come up here, or matrices or vectors, pardon me. So it will come up with this gigantic list there. Looks like I've got a bit of a problem with that one. Yeah, so with that one, I had to basically, I went and created my own one there. So let's change that a little bit. And API version, and then we've got the parameters, authorization, headers there, body there. So, yeah, that one's not going to work. Copy link. Where is it? Where is it? So, OpenAI deployments, chain, OpenAI deploy. So, that's the one I need to change. So, I'll go and deploy an embedding model, see if I can get it to work. So, let's go back to Azure. On Azure, come back. And we'll go and see whether I can deploy one of these. So let's go and see the deployment. Let's deploy the base model of, got to find embedding one. So there you go, there's a few embedding ones there. I usually use the ADA one, but I don't see it there at the moment. So it's been replaced with some others. So we can choose that one there. Maybe the small one. And confirm that one. So we're going to deploy that one. Model's not available. I keep getting this problem. So let's just go over to one of the other. Yeah, having lots of problems today, aren't I? Let's go to the OpenAI one we had before, which was, haven't been using it too much. That one there. Go to deployments. Let's see whether we can have some success with this one. So it usually means I've used up my quota when you get an error like that, and it's not a regional thing. I'm going to deploy a base model. We'll go to the embedding one, small again, and confirm. Please work this time. There you go, it's working. So that one's a little bit smaller of what I've deployed already. So you can see each one of them has their limit. And then I have that deployment there. So I've got to go and change this now. And if I can't get this to work, I'll come back and get it to work later, just like I did with the others. So AI-2. Stan, where are you? AI AI-102 AIOA embeddings, and send that. Okay, so there's something else in there I need to change. The name of the particular deployment as well. So, where's that one? Still looking old there. JRAI102 AIOA. Save. And let's have a look at params. Maybe that version isn't quite right, I'm not sure. The key will definitely be different, although I don't have the key in the authorization for that. There's the thing I need, the API key. So let's go and grab that one. Let's go and get the key for that one. Oh. A very strange noise. Still having some problems. What's wrong? What else have we got there? The body. Yeah, I have to go back to that and see why it's not working, that one. Yeah, there it is there. So I need to change this here. And I need to change this to the name. I had to delete all of mine recently, so that's why it's got the older version there of the name. The deployments. Grab that name. Let's see whether this does the job. Otherwise, we're going to have a look at how you use that just to double check. Trying to do it from memory is never good. And save that. And let's try that one. Still getting problems. What am I doing? Anyone seen the problems there? Very small embeddings. Yep, I'll have to come back to that then. Maybe it's not working with that particular version. Usually I would have used Ada for that particular one, but it looks like I'm having a little bit of trouble with that, so I'll come back to that one as well. So any other demos that aren't working, I'll revisit them. Don't worry too much about it. So OpenAI embeddings, Postman example is faulty. All right, I'll come back to that. We get the idea, and what that would have produced was a whole list of vectors just for this. The food was delicious and the waiter, blah, blah, blah. You actually see that there in this particular example, and this goes on for pages and pages. Okay, some of the other things is this example shows you a few-shot learning example. It's only got one, so it's got the user and assistant. You've got the system message there. And this last one here is the final question. So this one here is just an example. And then what you get there as an answer is, yes, other cognitive services also support translation, which is one of the things we talked about yesterday. Do other cognitive services support translation? So there's the input, the output, also how much prompts were used, and basically there an answer to that assistant question. So when you go and have a look at that in code, you'll actually see, when we go to the lab, you'll see some examples there. I'll see if I can bring up an example as well, at the risk of the Devo gods not liking me much today. I'll see if I can get you an example of the one I did earlier. So if I can just bring up that, I'm sure I'll be able to bring this one up. Let's just do that. Yes, code. And we'll see if we can find that example of VS Code. So just give me a minute. And AI, security, training, Microsoft Learn. The training. And we should have some examples there. Let's go and find a few there. So we're looking for the AI, OpenAI example. There it is there, number 6. So this is what your labs are going to look like. This one's a little bit older, so there'll be some changes in there. We'll have a look at some of the ones around maybe the prompt engineering one. Let's have a quick look at that. And as you can see in this example, they've got the system message. They've actually set the system text up the top here, and that's basically based on the other information that is passed in here. Then you've got the user message, the model, and anything else associated with parameters or anything like that. So this is an example of how you would now call that using the SDK. So I was just wondering if I've got any other examples there. Let's have a quick look. So this one's an interesting one. It works in a loop, and it does a few different things in behind the scenes it can do. You can actually do comparisons with your sample code. So if you're interested in running this one, I don't think this one is actually done during our labs, but you can try this one out at different times. It has this Go Fish Python code, and what it will do is Copilot will go and fix what is wrong with this. So there's notably a couple of things that are wrong with this code. The while condition is actually less than 0, so it's never going to get kicked off. So it goes and fixes that for you. It also looks at this area here and says play score -1 for the player score. So again, that's not right. It should be adding 1 for that. So you can actually run this through and it will fix all those for you. So I think it's in one of here, you get some output, which is actually, after it's run, it generates some output, and it basically generates this code again with those two things corrected in it. So that's quite a good one as well. It's got two different other things that you can try out with that one as well. So that's a nice one. What else have we got? The other one, the last one there, is bring your own data. So that's what we're going to be looking at this afternoon. And as you can see, it's setting that up. It's got the temperature, all this sort of thing. This is a really good example of what I was trying to find before. So if you had a few shot learning, you would actually duplicate this again and again. So let's just duplicate that. And then if we were to use that example I did earlier, you would say something like, so depending on what the text is there, you can substitute in your own text, and then you could say something like, the Dodgers, remember, if you remember that example that I gave with sports, the Dodgers had a great game last night, and that would actually be, oh, I'm thinking of going to a game soon. All right. So it's even suggesting comments for me there. That's Copilot Studio. What else have we got there? We've got, Copilot GitHub, not Studio. The assistant will then say, that's sports. So there's a good example of few-shot learning. And then I don't want to put any more detail on that one. It's gone a little bit overboard there. And then remember I had that other example where I said, Trump's on the campaign trail again. Yep, that even hopefully helped me with that one. And that's politics. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what you can do in the playground, and then what you would normally have done, just as an example of how you would do it in code. And then you come down to this last one, and then you would say, what's the weather like in Sydney today? And then you would basically then get that final answer that you did on the right-hand side of the playground. So that's, I took one of them out just for interest of time, but basically I had 3 of these examples, and then we went and asked it the final question. So it knows exactly how to basically answer the question with like a one-line category or a couple of words of category there. So it would return with the assistant saying, this is talking about weather, for example, climate. So that's basically how you would roll with setting up the messages there, plus any of the parameters, and if you need anything else, including embeddings. So I'll see if I can find you my example of embeddings a little bit later, and you can see how that works with embeddings as well. Okay, so that's a little bit for what you're in for the lab. And you can see that example in there as well. So what you typically would see in here is in the pseudocode they're sort of showing you, you would include the library. So we can actually see this side by side if you like. With the library. So any of the pip installs that you normally do, if you're using C Sharp, then you would have set up your app settings and JSON and your environment for your Python. So that's basically the difference there. And then if you go in and have a look, it's using a slightly different method to actually bring in all the libraries. You create the client, you define the chat. So that's exactly what I was doing then when I was defining the chat for this one here. And then you would send the request and then you would get a response. I don't think it's actually in the code there at the moment, but then you would get the response, pull that apart, and of course part of the response might be some metadata as well that you might need to choose as well and put into different variables. So that's basically the pseudocode associated. Parameters such as max response and temperature are defined in the chat options, so you can have a look at each one of those and how that's used. And there is an asynchronous and synchronous version of these available as well. So you're up to the lab. Any questions so far? Oh, the demo gods haven't been kind to me lately. I test some of the things in the morning, but I should test other things like I just, on the spur of the moment, decided to show you that postman. That's usually what gets me unraveled. So trying to do things off the cuff. Let's have a look at this first one, which is integrating OpenAI. So let's have a look at that lab now. That's lab 9. And also give you the instructions to the other labs if you want to do those a little bit later as well. I'll just go and grab that. Why? There we go. So there's the open AI GitHub repository as well. So have fun with the lab. Just going to go and click on that so you can see what the other labs are. So this one we're going to be doing Azure OpenAI SDK in your app. So you're just going to set up the service, deploy the model, prepare to develop the app in VS Code. So again, you saw us looking around in VS Code. You can either use C Sharp or Python. And then if you're going to use C Sharp, then it's a .NET add package. If you're going to go Python, then it's pip install. You change your app settings or your environment variables. And then you go in and dot environment variables, I should say. Then you go in here and start using the package like we saw in that pseudocode. You go and instantiate the OpenAI client, and then you call it, and then you can see the system message there. System user assistant, user assistant, that's why it usually looks. Then you run it and you ask it a question about hiking. Where's a good hike near Boise? Setting up different different parameters there. Temperature 0.7, that's typically what you use as a standard, I suppose. If it's 1, you want it to be more creative. So it depends on the sort of conversation. I would have said with this one, you could probably lower it down and see what the differences are that it gives you as well. Make sure you set them up as 5K. That's really important. So 5K quota, sort of on that first question, set it down low because we're all sharing the OpenAI resources behind the scenes. So just be mindful of that as well, and delete them when you've finished. I'll set up a clock for you. And we'll go through for 45 minutes on this. It probably is that way more time than what you need, but I'll just get you, I'll give you a little bit more time just in case. I'm about halfway through the content at the moment. I'll go and fiddle around with that postman one now and see if I can get that to work a bit better.